Hey guys, so we are finally going to be talking about backgrounds, part 2. If you didn't watch the first part, I highly recommend it, because in that video I was talking all about inspiration and why you guys should be pumped about backgrounds, and I got you guys really inspired to do them. In this video we're going to be talking about all the nitty-gritty fundamentals, okay? All those scary perspective lines and vanishing points. It's all going to be super simple. I guarantee by the end of this video, you guys are going to have it nailed down. It's going to be so simple. I'm going to be doing the most amazing backgrounds. So I'm going to be talking like throughout the whole thing, either going to be seeing my face or it's going to be on the computer, just to let you guys know. Also, forewarning, I talk really fast in this video because I really wanted this video to not be like featured movie length long, because I feel like the longer the video is, the more intimidating it's going to look for you guys. So if you always need to, you can always replay the little bits that I'm talking about, and you can always leave me questions in the comment section. I will be here for you guys if you have any sort of concerns. I have split this video into 10 easy bite-sized chunks. Each chunk is roughly 2 or 3 minutes, so you guys can just kind of like skip around if you want. And right now I'm going to show you guys a table of contents of each little 10 chunk section. So all you gotta do is click any of the links and you can boom, go right to that little part. And I'll also have a little link, maybe not down here, but somewhere, but a little link in the corner of the video throughout the whole thing. So let's say you finish section 5 and you wanna come back to the beginning of this video so you can find the link to section 8 and not have to like scroll through, which is really annoying. You can just click that link, come back to this part of the video, and boom, table of contents for you guys. I'm going all out for this one because I really want it to be an amazing resource. Without further ado, let's get started. Part 1. So the first part that we're going to talk about is why it is that everyone learns this kind of perspective in middle school. But why is it that this teaches us nothing, and why does it look so shitty? You know, everything's correct. We've got everything coming into this one singular vanishing point. We have our objects getting narrower as they get towards the point. We've got all the basic stuff. Like, this should be fine. But why is this awful? It's just a really flat, basic-y looking illustration. And I'm sorry, but like, there's no imagination to it. I'm gonna guess you guys are pretty creative individuals. You probably have much more elaborate scenes in your head that feature really kind of different perspective lines and lots of different objects and lots of things going on. You need to have more knowledge in order to get farther with what you're going with. While this little illustration teaches some fundamentals, it doesn't tell you guys kind of like, well, what happens if I change this slight thing? All it tells you is how to just make a point in the center of the picture and create lines from that. But I'm going to teach you guys all of the extra stuff, okay? Well, let's get started. Like, really started. Part 2. So the first thing you need to do when you're talking about perspective or when you're drawing it is you have to know your horizon line, which is a shitty name, and I'm going to explain why in a second. Or another term for it is the eye level of the viewer who is viewing this landscape, okay? Horizon line technically works if you're talking about outside, but 9 times out of 10 you can't see the horizon line even if you are outside. So forget about it. Picture yourself or whatever character in the scene holding a camera and looking around. Whatever height that little person is, maybe they're like 85 feet tall, maybe they're 2 feet tall, maybe they're 5'6", whatever height they are and they're kind of viewing the landscape is where you kind of want your eye line to be. And something that perspective videos and tutorials online don't really seem to mention is that when your viewer is viewing the scene, their head is straight. They're looking straight on, okay? They're not tilting their head down here, they're not looking way up here, it's just straight across. They can kind of look down and they can kind of look up, which might not make sense right at this second, but when I get to other parts of the video I think it'll make more sense, but it always stays straight. So when you're drawing it on a piece of paper, you're going to have your line going across and the points coming out of it. The eye level is also where your vanishing point goes. So those two things are the most important parts of building your perspective from the ground up, and I'm going to show you guys a little bit more right now. Okay, so we were just talking about eye level / the horizon line and where it goes, but how does that look on pieces of paper? So if we are an average person, maybe like 5'5", and we're standing in a scene, our average horizon line is going to be about here, okay? And that's what you're going to see in a lot of illustrations. It's going to be about 2/3 of the way up, because that's just kind of like the height of your viewer and the height of things going on, blah, blah, blah. What if you're really, really tall, like 85 feet tall giant, or maybe you're in a plane and you're looking down on a scene? Well, you're high up, so your eye level is going to be high up. In some cases, your horizon line might even be above the page. That's fine too. Or let's say you are like close to the ground, like you're literally on your belly. Well, you're low to the ground, so your eye level is going to be low to the ground. And same thing as before, it can also be below the piece of paper. And this doesn't really mean that, crazy things are going to happen. Your vanishing point is still going to be on that eye level, and you just draw your lines from there. And for a worm's eye view, it's going to be a little bit different because you're actually going to be focusing, your perspective points are going to be more vertical than they are going to be kind of down here, which is going to be a little different and kind of scary looking, but it's the exact same principle for all of these. So that is your basics with your eye level / horizon line. So in part 2, we were talking about how the vanishing point is always at the eye line, or the eye level, whatever. But there are a couple of cases where that is not the case. What happens if the ground is not flat? What if you're looking up at a hill, or what if you're looking down from the top of a hill? What happens then? Well, that's easy. If you're looking up at a hill, then your vanishing point is going to be up, above the line. If you're looking down from a hill, it's going to be down, below the line. And then the exact same rules apply. All you got to do is just make your vanishing line, or your lines over here. So maybe that's like the crest of our hill, and we've got some buildings for God knows what reason. And ta-da! I very, very quickly made it look like my viewer is looking up at this hill. The eye level is still down here, but now we can see that there is this raised kind of curved road. All right. What if we're looking down from the hill? Same things apply. We've got this going down like that. We've got our buildings really shittily drawn. That's the crest of our hill, and now it looks like our viewer is looking down from the hill. Eye level still here, but this is what's going to happen. Part 4, and we're still talking about vanishing points. Get ready. So your vanishing points, more often than not, are going to be off the page because, you don't want them like too extreme or something. But the tricky thing is like, okay, well, where the hell do I put my points? How far away should they be? Should they be close over here? Should they be way out here? What happens? So I, did this real quick for you guys. We did some perspective lines. So I'm going to show you guys what happens when you have these different points. So I'm just going to literally, I'm just following these lines. That's all I'm doing. We've got this perspective of a building. We've got this other perspective of a building. Can you already see what's happening? And this last perspective of a building. Hey, take a look. Look at what happens between this one and this one. The angles right here, because they're farther out, are much more gentle, which means we have kind of a wider perspective and we can see a lot more of this building. This one is more average, we can see plenty. This one's much more extreme. The angles are really, really tight. So it kind of has this more cartoony sort of look to it. And it almost seems like we're a little bit farther away. We can't quite see as much detail as we can in this one. So we haven't physically zoomed in on this building, but because of the vanishing points, it almost seems like we does. So the vanishing points determine how wide our perspective is, and it kind of determines the extremities of the angles, how cartoonish you want it to be. Now here we are in part 5, and we're talking about objects in perspective. So here we have your standard bookcase, and our eye level is right here, our vanishing point is right here. Because this is our eye level, we can't see this shelf. It just looks like a strip of wood, right? But what the hell happens on these shelves? So all I did was I put my vanishing point here, because that's where the eye level is, and I connected it with each one of these points along here. Now I'm just going to do just a really simple little rectangle to show how deep I want my shelf to be. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to draw some red lines that connect the perspective points to the shelves. Okay, so like way up here, for example, this perspective line kind of goes like this, and then I followed it along the shelf line, or that gray box that we were just talking about, and then I connected here. In this case, I connected to the gray line, just made a horizontal line, connected it right here using the perspective lines. That's all I did for all of these shelves. Now look what happens when I get rid of the pale lines. We have a very nice looking shelf, but it also teaches us a lot about what happens in rectangles in perspective. The closer we get to the eye line, the skinnier our rectangles look. to the point where they literally become flat at eye level. And the farther away they get, the fatter they look. If we're looking at an object and it's below us, we see the top. If we're looking at an object from above, we're going to see its bottom. Cylinders are similar, but not quite the same. Right here, we've got literally just a flat cylinder. Like, we can't even see it. It's just straight. And like before, we can see the bottoms of this because they're away from our eye level. But with cylinders, the difference is your bottom will always be rounder than your top. The top will always be skinnier. Why is that? If we had a cylinder that was perfectly round on both sides and we did our line, now it kind of looks like it's floating in space, right? It doesn't look like it's sitting on a table. If you have a cylinder sitting on a table, this is the effect that happens. Skinnier top, rounder bottom. And as we can see right over here, I'm going to put the perspective lines back again. All objects can be used with a vanishing point, even if they're round or if they're rectangular. So this is very useful if you guys are, for example, doing a bedroom scene and you've got like books sitting on a desk with a bookshelf on top of the desk and a bed right next to the desk. It's a lot of rectangles. A lot of things can happen in that picture. You're going to want to use your vanishing points for all of them. Okay, so now we're at part 6, and in the last segment we were talking about objects in perspective, but what happens when we have people in perspective? What happens if we want to draw crowds of people? What do we do then? Well, if you don't know what you're doing, this happens. This is some high school artwork that looks really fucking shitty, and here's why. We have this ballroom scene right here. We got people dancing. It looks fine at first glance, but look how tiny these people are. They're really not that far off, but if they were to dance over to where these people are, they would look much more minuscule, and that's a problem. This one is so bad that I literally had to stop painting it halfway through because I realized there were so many mistakes. This car is massive. If this car was over here, which is not that much of a distance, it would be more than half the size of this sign, and it'd be more than half the height of this restaurant. So that's a huge problem. This road doesn't fade into a single point like it's supposed to, so the road looks super big, and the plateaus in the distance look super small compared to everything else. So this has so many fucking issues. And then this one is probably the worst. I intended to draw a normal sized doll next to a normal sized tree in a normal forest. But what ended up happening was I screwed up the background so bad that now the doll looks massive, the tree looks massive, the bugs look huge, but it looks like this is all happening in a normal sized forest. So this is why you need to have your objects correctly in perspective at all times. And I'm going to show you guys 2 techniques on how to do this. Here we have what I call the book method, because I learned it in a book. There's nothing special there. So all you got to do is just draw your person. Okay. Oh wow, that is a really bad person. And we just draw your vanishing point. And you know, this always works out this way. We've got our perspective lines like this. Okay, so now all we have to do, this is so simple. We're forced into this height right here because of the perspective lines. So we're just going to draw a proportionate human person right here, and voila, we have made a person look proportionately in the distance to this person. So we know for a fact that if this person came around over here, they would be the same height. If you have a person that's a little bit shorter, like let's say he's got a daughter and she's really, really tiny, all you got to do is just make another perspective line for her, and then we know exactly where we're going to draw his daughter over here. Okay, so this is super simple. And if you have Photoshop, all you got to do is really just like copy this dude, paste it on another layer, shrink him down a little bit. You can make it more exact, but this is kind of the quick and sloppy guide. So that's the book method. Now we're going to be showing you the drawing crowds method, which is a little bit more complex, but this works a lot better if you've got so many characters that you don't want to deal with all those lines. So all you have to do is, here is our eye level. Pick a body part that most likely would be at this eye level. So for this one, it's about an average height eye level. Let's say our viewer is maybe 5'6", and they're going to be looking at someone, so most likely they're going to be looking at this person's neck. So we draw a neck. All of our characters' necks are going to be on this line. So we have our neck, we have our head, and if that head's that big and that neck's that big, that torso is going to be about yay big. Groin area is going to be about that big. Leg, arm. Okay, we have a man. Great. So now we're going to draw someone a little bit farther away. We're going to draw a skinnier neck. Proportionately, the head's going to be about like this. Their body's going to be a little bit more like this. Groin area, leg, arm, done. Okay, so now all we've done
is just create another human that looks correctly in proportion farther away in the distance. What if we want someone even smaller? Tiny neck, tiny head, tiny body, little arms and stuff. And you can just keep going with this. You can fill this whole scene. Now, what we have is a super creepy illustration of men coming towards us, but at least it's correct and in perspective. Okay? So those are two methods that you guys can use for drawing people in perspective. So you don't end up with, I'm going to show it one more time, this ugly shit.
Okay, so here we are with part 7. Nice to see faces again, good to see you guys. So we're going to be talking about, like, patterns of things in perspective. What the hell do I mean by that? Well, what if we have a building with, like, a row of windows, right? Like all buildings kind of do. And they're going into perspective. So I've got this kind of example for you guys. I'm hoping that you can see this. So we've got some windows, and they're kind of, going off in the distance or whatever. Does this seem right to you? It shouldn't, because it's wrong. Look what happens when we change the perspective to be flat. These windows are getting wider and wider. This one doesn't even fit the paper. When we were drawing it in perspective, we just naturally assumed, okay, well, they're equal distance from each other. We're just going to keep them equal. That's not what you want to do. When you're drawing patterns, like windows, for example, in perspective, they get narrower and closer together when they get farther in perspective. I hope you guys can see this. I'm really hoping. But as you can see, these windows over here look much more squished together than this one does, but just closer to the viewer. I don't have a technique for figuring out how scrunched up they should be. This is kind of something you have to eyeball. If any of you guys know a tutorial online that explains this better, please link it or something in the comment section, because I'd love to really explain this to you guys. But basically, you can kind of fudge it, okay? The farther it is, the more skinny and kind of undetailed it's going to look. And the closer is, the wider and more normal it's going to look.
Alright, so now we're taking a break from objects in perspective for the most part, and we're talking about verticals. Your verticals, for the most part, stay vertical. This is an easy line and an easy concept. So we're going to show you guys some good and some bad examples. Alright, so we've got our vanishing points right here. Let's say we've got a couple of rooms and we're going to hang up some frames. Okay, easy enough. We got our vanishing points. We're going to draw our little perspective lines. Now we just follow those lines. Great. Oh no. Shit, man. I don't know where I want my lines to go. I'm scared. I'm going to draw it like this. Okay, that looks like shit. Let's show you guys what an actual thing is supposed to look like. Okay, we got our perspective lines. Follow them. Super easy. Draw a vertical line. This painting looks like it's hanging on the wall. This painting looks like it's flying off the wall. With this kind of perspective, this 1 point perspective kind of going off in the distance, you just want to keep your verticals the same. Guys, it's super easy. You don't even have to worry about this shit. You just draw your vertical lines. This is not always the case. If you have like a fisheye perspective or something kind of extreme, this is not like a perfect rule. But in general, your verticals stay vertical, so don't worry about it. If it's not in perspective, it's straight, okay? So one last thing. Let's pretend that we have a little light source here, okay? And then let's pretend that we've got an object, let's say a lamp, just kind of chilling in the middle of this scene, okay? This is a shitty lamp, but whatever. So in this bad example, okay, so the light source is here, meaning my shadow is going to be opposite from it, right? But then what the hell do I do with this wall? Where does the shadow go? I'm scared. I don't know what to do. I'm going to do this. Not good. What really happens is, okay, so it's away from the light source. It's straight. It's vertical. Your verticals stay vertical, okay? Even with shadows, which are super kind of weird sometimes, your verticals stay vertical. So here we are finally at part 9, and we are finally taking a break from all the stupid buildings and cityscapes and stuff like that. We're going to talk about nature and how to make nature look still in perspective with distance and stuff, because we don't have the luxury of vanishing points and lines and angles and stuff to making it easy for our viewer to see depth. We have to show depth in other ways. So for whatever reason in nature, your light source is always in the distance. Even in a really dark kind of foresty picture like this, there is still going to be light in a distance, and that is going to help create a lot of depth. The only time that you don't have to follow this rule is if you're deliberately doing something very ominous looking and you want like a completely black sort of background area, or if it's literally the dead of night and the moon isn't even out because it's a cloudy day and there's just like no freaking light ever, then you can kind of change that rule. But in general, your backgrounds get lighter the farther they go out. And then down here, The other thing you can think about besides light are edges, whether they're blurry or sharp. So right now we have these really big objects in the foreground. They're big because they're closer to us, and I put them in a very crisp sort of lines. And then the farther away they go, not only do they get lighter, but they get blurrier, so we can't see it as much. We're very focused on these bushes. Whereas in this picture, these are still very big. Technically, we should be looking at them, but because I made the edges blurry and these lines very crisp, we're naturally very drawn to this area. So in both these cases, just by changing what I did with the edges of the lines, depends on, like, it creates depth and different kinds of focus. So wherever you want the focus, you make them sharp, and wherever you don't want the focus, you make it blurry. So using edges and light will create depth and perspective, even if you're not focusing heavily on vanishing points and all that crazy stuff like that. This is how you can do it.
And now, guys, finally, we are at part 10. Okay, this is the last section of this thing, and it's about troubleshooting, which is basically what happens when you're looking at your drawing and you feel like you've done everything right, but there is just something that doesn't quite look right. What do? Basically, if something doesn't look right, it's not right. Your perspectives are here to help you and make things concrete and absolute, which is really amazing. But sometimes little things can kind of slip us up, and that's life, you know? That's how it goes. So here are 2 techniques to get over this. The first one is, if an object looks wrong, try to picture your character moving around the scene and see maybe what might be causing the problem. Maybe that object is really far away, but you drew it too big. So if that character was close to it, it would seem way more massive than it's supposed to be. Or maybe the object is too small. Check your vanishing points, make sure everything's correct like that. And then 2, this was the easiest one, just ask a friend to look at it. Ask anyone, every single person, even if they're not an artist, can look at a scene and be like, okay, something looks weird, and ask for their advice. It's great if you have an artist friend to help you out because they might be able to pinpoint it more specifically, but just ask their opinion. Be like, hey, does something look weird to you? And they'll be like, yeah, those bananas in the center of the picture look way too big. And you're like, oh my God, you're right. Why didn't I see that? So yeah, that's what you need to do if you're troubleshooting. Just ask people, squint out a little bit, play with things a little bit, and just do your best. That's what it all boils down to. Thank you guys for making it to the end of this video. I know this was a lot of information. Even when I was making this video, like studying for it, making sure that I had everything down, my head was like exploding. So thank you guys for really like making it this far. I hope this was helpful for you guys. I really like tried to put as much detail as I could into this, but there are plenty of things that come with perspective that I didn't cover. So, because I'm still trying to give you guys more resources, if you go into the description of this video, I'm going to be linking you guys some like things that I didn't cover, things that I did cover, but maybe I didn't explain it well enough for you guys. Maybe you guys learned it a little bit different way. There's lots and lots of resources for you guys to check out. And like I said before, if you guys have found a tutorial online that helped you out so freaking much, that's great. If you could just leave it in the comment section so others can see it, including myself, that'd be solid. I hope this will get you over your fear of doing backgrounds because they're a lot of fun to do, and the fundamentals, the more you play with them, the easier it's going to be, and you'll be shocked how much fun it's going to be to do these things once you have everything nailed down. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video, which I'm super pumped for. High schoolers, get ready. This video is going to be all for you. Oh yeah, before I go, you can always catch me on Instagram and Tumblr. I am Biana Bova for each one. I'll put links in the description and all that good stuff. And if you really like this video, please give it a like so other people can see it. It helps kind of spread on YouTube if there's a lot of likes. And if you really like my channel, please subscribe. You're going to see lots of really cool videos from me. I promise. And then just one last final thing before I go. I'm considering getting a Snapchat, like an art Snapchat, so you guys could like watch me work on things in progress, watch me like, I don't know, do mini rants, see little snippets of works in progresses and stuff, whatever. If you guys are interested though, let me know because I'm kind of on the fence on whether or not I want to do it. So yeah, I hope, again, this was helpful and hope you're having a great day. I'll see you in the next vid, guys. Bye!